Padres Hot Tub is a podcast, but it is now so much more. We are a community, patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. We are a website, padreshottub.com. And when you go to padreshottub.com, we are a merchandise store. Chris Reed, what's happening? What happened? Raphie showed up and all of a sudden we're this professional outfit. We got things and stuff.
From just, humble podcast to international media conglomerate.
Right? What happened to lo-fi? What happened? We got t-shirts. We got websites. We got podcasts. We got it all. We're a video show now. It's incredible. Tell everyone, Raphie, what's going on at padreshottub.com and the merchandise store.
We have a t-shirt for sale. It comes in many variants. The many variants are white and heather gray. They come in many sizes. They actually do come in many sizes. So we have you from small all the way up to triple XL. And if you are a huge or big patron, you will be getting a promo code tomorrow that will be good for a free t-shirt. So you can go to our website, you act like you're buying it, you put in your personal promo code, and it'll knock the price off for you. So you will have that for one t-shirt. But yeah, no, we got off the ground on the website last week, and I am so excited. There will be more merch coming throughout the year. As we said on Group Therapy last week, it is a long 162 game season, and what better way to break it up than to have little doohickeys that you can buy from the Padres Hot Tub store and support the show.
Absolutely. Support the show. Join our community, patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Hey, for just $5 a month, you can be part of our Discord, which is infinitely cooler than Twitter, and where everyone there is verified as a cool Padres fan that isn't going to be obnoxious and potentially just troll you meaninglessly and keep telling you that you should give some billionaire $8 a month. It's a great place to be. Give us thousandaires $5 a month instead and see what the difference might be. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody. Craig Elsten, Chris Reed, Raphie Cantor. We are here with you. It is a Monday night, recording on April 24th, 2023, and the Padres are 500. Fernando is back. Joe Musgrove is back. Arizona Diamondbacks, we're killing the Snakes, getting them out of town. 3 out of 4, taking out of Chase Field. Everything is coming up Millhouse right now. Yeah, whacking day then, if I'm going to continue the Simpson analogy. Chris, an exciting time, at least this last few days, to see this 2023 season start to resemble the thing we've been dreaming on for months.
Dude, it is statistically a new season. It feels like a new season in the vibes in the dugout. It certainly felt like a whole new team once Fernando Tatis showed up. That series in Arizona against a solid Diamondbacks team really made me feel a lot better, when they were 2 or 3 games below 500. There was a little bit of panic setting in. The number 2021 started getting thrown around. I don't want to see that number anymore. It's a disgusting number. We don't need to bring it up. This is the 2023 Padres, and the season starts now.
Well, we got a lot to cover this week on the show, including, of course, and we'll start with it, the return of Fernando Tatis Jr. We'll break down that series in Arizona. It offered plenty of storylines, and we'll look at some of the things that are happening to the club in the next week moving forward, as today, finally an off day for the San Diego Padres, 24 games in 25 days. Now they get to play 3 in Chicago and then have a travel day to Mexico before playing 2 games in Mexico City, 2 home games in Mexico City against the Giants, which a lot of our Padres Hot Tub patrons are going to and are coming together and figuring out the way to be together in Mexico City to check that out. So a lot to talk about, but we got to start with Toddy. Bebo's back. It changes everything. Obviously, 420. There were more Padre fans than Diamondback fans in the stands for Fernando Tatis Jr.'s return, and the Padres won that night and put 7 runs on the board with Tatis doing absolutely nothing at the plate, because that's baseball. It was Trent Grisham's night that night, but it does speak, Chris, to the ripple effect, because the lineup that was intended for this team has Tatis at the top, which means then Soto, Machado, and Bogarts lay out 2, 3, 4, and it allows a player like Trent Grisham to drop from 1 down to 8 or 9 in the lineup. It's been 8 generally, and that ripple effect allows for a guy like him who has low average but high impact to all of a sudden contribute even more, almost ironically, than he does when he's trying to lead off and set the tone.
Yeah, I agree, Craig. I think that's one of the reasons why we saw some more offensive production these past 4 games. Well, not the game against Zach Gallen where offensive production didn't happen, but that's allowed against Zach Gallen. He's freaking fantastic. But that game yesterday where they put up 7, just kind of continually putting it up with the lineup they had in different ways. The middle of the lineup performing really well. Grisham at the bottom gives you a guy who, when he's at his best, because he's certainly capable of watching 3 pitches go by and not putting together a solid at bat. We know that. But when he's at his best, he can grind down a pitcher. He can get to 7, 8 pitches pretty easily with his eye. And then he can make you pay if you make a mistake. If you're feeding him fastballs, trying not to give an out. If you're facing Trent Grisham with 1 out and he's in the 8th spot, and, you may have a softer player coming up after Grisham, unnamed softer player, you want to go after him, and that's dangerous. That's how he winds up getting extra base hits and home runs. So yeah, getting to see this lineup in its natural, truest form was exciting, is exciting. I think they're going to be putting up 7-run innings, not 7-run games. I think we're going to see some 7-run innings soon. You just kind of see the development of it happening before our eyes.
And, Raphie, one thing that it's weird, but we hadn't watched this kid play since September, October 2021. And even when we did watch him play then, he was dealing with a shoulder injury. He was being tentative out in the field. There was a cautiousness to him. It was like his 5th or 6th shoulder subluxation within a 4 or 5 month period. You forget just kind of what a physical specimen Fernando Tatis Jr. is. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. His bat speed is faster than other people. When he's even ferociously wrong, it's more apparent. And that's why he made such a splash in the league. It's kind of thrilling to almost relearn that Tatis is back on this team.
It's the must-see TV aspect of watching this team that has finally come to fruition. I remember when Nando first came up, and it was the sort of thing where it's like, it didn't matter that it was 2019 and the Padres won, 66 games or whatever it was. When he was up and healthy, and I had to watch. It didn't matter what was going on. And I had the pleasure of going to Chase Field this weekend. I had my entire bachelor party there. We did my bachelor in Scottsdale, and then we went on Saturday and we got to see the Nando home run, and the energy in the stadium completely changed. First, because he was showered with booze, and I've been to Dodger Stadium many times when Manny Machado came up to the plate. That's still number 1 in terms of booze, but this was a pretty close second. I mean, our little corner of the stadium was cheering, and it was just an example of, this is what he's going to face. This is what he's going to face all year, and he's going to have to perform in spite of that. The other thing was that he hit a home run, and we were sitting on the second level, the mid-level, right by the left field foul pole. So the ball went over the fence probably 50 to 100 feet from us, and I thought for sure it was a can of corn. Like I was saying in the Discord, I was like, I don't know if it's just because it's dry and the balls are different again this year or whatever, or as Jake Cronenworth and other Padres players said in quotes after the game, he's just different. But either way, it's still exciting. It's still exciting. It's still baseball. And the other thing that I want to point out is Nando on the base paths. Obviously he got into a little bit of trouble and got thrown out yesterday at third, being a little silly. But seeing him on first base when Juan Soto's coming up to the plate and knowing that you have this perennial on-base machine who's probably going to get more fastballs because Nando, it's the Gary Templeton, Tony Gwynn effect, where you're going to have your two-hitter see more fastballs because they don't want to throw breaking balls. That's going to allow the leadoff guy to advance. And then that prospect of like, oh, okay, this is 1-2, and then we have Machado and Bogarts coming up after. It just like we really got to feel and see for real this thing that felt like a video game in our heads for so long. It's like, this is our team, and it's amazing to let that sink in.
And Chris, along those lines, and you said it earlier, so I'll just jump to this. I think we'll know when Tatis is back and locked in when he can take ball one in his first at bat. Like right now, Fernando is so froggy. He wants to hit every pitch 600 feet. He's swinging at top speed. He wants to show that so desperately that he's back, that he's the dude, he's here. And so he's seeing 0-2 just like over and over again. He's putting himself in bad hitters counts. He's making himself vulnerable to chase situations. I'll know when Tatis is back when he's getting that 2-1, 3-2 situation a lot more regularly. And when that happens, then all of the dynamics that Raphie just talked about and getting on base in front of Soto, it'll allow the dynamic chain to begin more regularly.
That's a great observation, Craig. I knew he was back right away once he got thrown out at third and almost tried to take third on a ball that bounced 10 feet from the second baseman in his first game back, And I kind of expected him to successfully do it. But you are right. A lot of swinging and off-speed stuff off the plate early in the count. And it's kind of incredible, that he's got a couple hits doing that because his approach has just been so aggressive and so throttled down. And to give him credit for something, talk about a Tatis effect. The Padres being a team that traveled with their fans, that had fans show up at a away game, that did not exist prior to Fernando Tatis. It just didn't.
Yeah.
Whenever as good as the team might have been, never happened.
So Tatis will get there. So far, he's hitting low. He's got the one homer. Obviously, it's going to come around. The speed to which it comes around is the speed to which the Padres will become the best team in baseball. They won 3 out of 4 with Fernando kind of muddling about, mostly offensively. And I think part of it is the simple lift of just knowing that he's there. When he's actually performing, and we can say that about Juan, and we can definitely say that about Manny, and we can say that about Cron, and we can say that about several positions in the lineup. The Padres have that upside still waiting. That's why part 2 of the prediction was what it was. It'll take a little time for Fernando to get his sea legs under him to be able to perform offensively the way we expect. But Raphie, defensively, what if Fernando Tatis Jr. is a great right fielder? What if he's not just out there marking time, hoping to get somewhere else? The speed, the jumps, and obviously the arm, with some discipline issues to be resolved and refined, but the tools are there for Fernando Tatis Jr. to be the best right fielder in baseball.
Well, certainly. And I remember when I was a kid, this is going to date me at my age, but like Vlad Guerrero was kind of the prototypical right fielder. And the number one thing that he had going on was he had a cannon. And that's something that we know that Nando has. And the thing I kind of dream on about the move to right field is that his cannon obviously got him into some trouble because of some accuracy issues. And the man who shall not be named was playing first base at the time and probably was a little bit of a liability there and hurt Nando in some aspects. But the move to right field can kind of nerf some of that risk and liability because the probability that someone gets an outfield assist is much lower, obviously. And the value that it provides is much higher on a kind of marginal basis in terms of like, if you get a guy out who's trying to stretch an extra base, that's huge. Obviously, him not playing shortstop on a regular basis is not going to be as valuable, or I should say this, him playing right field is not as valuable as him playing shortstop, just from a positional adjustment basis. But you have to look at the puzzle pieces that we all have. And if, the current configuration of infielders that we have provides us with the best defensive value, and moving him to right field with that arm and that speed, I mean, just the way he tracked down fly balls in that right field corner, which, by the way, Chase Field, huge outfield, like absolutely
Huge.
massive
Absolutely,
outfield.
yes.
And things were not falling. And also, the thing that I noticed just from an eye test perspective, there were a couple balls that he could have tried to dive for, and he didn't. And he pulled up knowing that he was saving, potentially a couple bases if the ball rolled past him to the wall. So I'm really excited by the idea of Nando, from a stats standpoint, from a pods above replacement standpoint, seeing what happens over the course of a year to his value playing right versus playing shortstop is super intriguing, but it's not an answer we're going to have until the end of the year. So for now, I'm just going to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and enjoy the physicality, enjoy the anticipation. He gets the ball. What's he going to do? Every once in a while, he will miss a cutoff man. He will gun for a throw that's a 8% chance, and maybe he'll make it a 20% chance for himself, and still it's not enough to make the math work. Like, those things will happen along the way, but I think it's a great point. Like, the overall mitigation of risk as compared to the errors that he might create as a shortstop to what he's doing as a right fielder, I think there's a much higher chance that he's a low error right fielder. Sure, maybe he'll have a couple overthrow the base, let the runner advance type errors, but the idea that him and Grisham are in the same outfield, like, just shade Grish a little to left center and then Soto's covered, because Tatis has got the range to take the gap. I really do. I think he's got the range to take both of the gaps. Of course, Fernando Tatis Jr. moves to right field because the Padres sign Xander Bogaerts. Ha-Seong Kim could also be a shortstop on this team, but Bogaerts is the shortstop. And Xander Bogaerts has reached base every single game for the San Diego Padres. He has a 24-game on-base streak. He has a hit, I believe, in 22 of 24 games. He's hitting homers. He's driving in runs. He's played a good shortstop so far, despite StatCast giving him like the weakest arm in all of Major League Baseball. And is it crazy, Chris, to say that the meaningless 24-game MVP of the National League could be Xander Bogaerts?
A little bit, because he's in top 10 everything, near the leader of batting average, but he's kind of near the 10th on everything. And there are some guys that you want to talk about April craziness. Brandon Marsh is leading the National League in OPS right now. If he didn't get overtaken by friggin' Outman of the Dodgers today, who Raphie said hit a home run and probably hit a grand slam and he probably hit for the cycle already today. So those guys aren't going to be leading the league in OPS come September. There's going to be a lot of turnover in those names, but Xander Bogaerts' name is still going to be in the mix. I don't worry about the throwing thing at all. I've been watching this since you guys brought it up. A lot of the plays, it seems like he doesn't throw it quite as hard because he's got a good, just like Manny talks about, he's got that internal clock. If he needs to throw it hard, he throws it hard. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. He's not chasing the defensive metric, trying to get that free agent contract anymore. He's just playing baseball.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I mean, he doesn't have to chase anything till he's 41. So
no.
That's kind of the weird thing about the left side of the Padres infield. It's like, do you like it? I mean, I hope you do.
He might be saving those throws. He might be like, that hard throw is for when I'm 37. Right now I can just have a nice little 31. Nice little peaceful whip over there.
Well,
He hasn't missed.
I'll show my age. Yeah, I'll show my age in that sense, and this will be one of those ones where Raphie, it might just bounce off you, but he's got a little Tony Fernandez to him at shortstop.
yeah.
Tony Fernandez didn't have an incredible arm. He mostly slung it sidearm across the infield, but he had that clock and he had the ability to get to the position on the field where his throw would be good enough to be on target. I'll always recommend the Pods Above Replacement podcast in general, video in general, and I loved the Xander Bogaerts episode, but I do think he's outperformed your guys' expectations so far.
Yeah, he has. And I'm pulling up the data right now, but I said on that podcast, I know John Prokotos, big from we were hoping we were wrong. You know what I mean? Like when we were giving, those, we're wrong. These are things we could potentially be concerned about. Listen, the arm is bad, guys. The arm's bad. And I think over the course of the season, it's going to rear its head. Currently he's at a 17th percentile arm strength, and his speed on his throws to first base, 78.9 mile an hour average, which is the worst of his career. So I'm still worried that over the course of the season, him moving to his right, moving to that third base side, is going to be a negative asset to the Padres. Now, as we saw this weekend, Manny's there. And maybe that's going to nerf some of that, kind of weakness that Xander has, is that he has a third baseman with incredible range who's making crazy diving catches on the reg. So I don't know. I'm really thrilled with what I've seen so far. He's, like you said, he's kind of slinging it over there, moving to his left. He looks great. And he's consistent. And also, we mentioned Tatis and having to play with who shall not be named. Jake Cronenworth's been awesome at first base, which is something I was wrong about in my preseason predictions, gladly. He has looked incredible. He's looked every bit athletic over there as he did playing everywhere else on the field. And I think that he's going to be a plus to every other guy on the infield, being able to make up, some poor throws. I saw Xander when I was in Arizona, saw him skip a couple to Jake that he was able to make up. Saw Ha-Seong Kim skip a couple to Jake that he was able to pick up.
Was that the splits one? Was that the one where he went full splits on us? The hustle?
Yes.
Oh, it was such a good play.
That's when my back went out.
Just out of sympathy.
Yeah. But I'm dead.
Xander is been nothing but a treat so far, and I understand why people in Boston were so upset by him leaving. Like, just watching him play the way he's played so far.
Yeah, you brought up Cron. I'm just going to jump him up the menu as we talk about 3 out of 4 in Arizona. Jake made so many good plays. Just the sight of a first baseman actively stretching to help his infielders is so refreshing, is such a beautiful reminder after, it's like after 5 years of fast food to actually get a vegetable in your life. Oh my God, I feel so much better. Jake had a huge game, one game in the series. The rest of the time he was pretty slow, and Jake's really not hitting almost at all so far this year. He's in the low 210s. He's had the occasional pop. He's had the occasional big hit. I predicted a 100-100 season for him. That requires Jake Cronenworth getting on base at around a 340 clip and being able to hit in the 250-260 range. I'm really hoping that this gradual decline from Jake Cronenworth near 300 hitter to Jake Cronenworth productive 240 hitter to Jake Cronenworth Doug Minkiewicz recap, 215 with a dozen homers but a great glove. Like, I don't want to see this career evolution.
Can I defend his honor for a second?
Please.
He has been getting really unlucky so far. His StatCast numbers, his expected batting average is 285. His expected slug is 484. He has a 33-point difference between his actual WOBA and his expected WOBA, which, by the way, is the opposite of what happened last year. Last year, we were seeing that he should have been performing worse than he was doing in the early going. And a lot of that had to do with the deadening of the ball and everything like that. And now it's basically the peripherals are showing that actually he's one of the better players on the team. So I am not worried about Jake Cronenworth in the slightest. I think he's going to have some luck that evens out over the course of the year.
All right, great. Well, now this is the weekly part of the podcast where we can say the same thing about Juan Soto, right? Juan Soto showed some slow progress Saturday and Sunday, had his kind of classic get a hit and a couple of walk type of games. Those are, of course, incredibly productive games. Anytime you can reach base 3 times in a game is terrific for your team at the top of your lineup. Nonetheless, the analysis continues as well. It appears that Juan Soto is getting beat on low fastballs, that he's taking them at the highest rate of his career, and he's doing the worst against them in his career. And, it's funny, Chris, because, I could go to Raphie for all the stats on this. I also feel there's kind of a psychological aspect to this, which I want to point out, which is that we're now at the media point where everyone who wants to do a stat head on Juan Soto can go, well, now we have 80 games of data. So now we know what Juan Soto is as a San Diego Padre, and it's this compared to that, and all of these stats and charts, and I'm not dismissing any of it. The evidence is the evidence, but that's a narrative. The Juan Soto is bad in San Diego narrative is now a thing that exists. It's a thing to be discussed in national media. It's a thing to be analyzed or dismissed in baseball media. And it honestly, Chris, Juan Soto has to break this. He's the guy who needs to be NL Player of the Week 2 weeks in a row and shut everyone up for good. And he hasn't done it yet. He's made slow progress, and he's still hitting under 200.
Yeah, it's kind of a sick joke that the only time we saw Juan Soto be Juan Soto the last year was in the World Baseball Classic. That wasn't in a Padres uniform either. He talks about how when he's on, he's hitting the ball above the shortstop's head or at the shortstop, and we're still not seeing that. He says that that's when you'll know he's doing good. He isn't doing that yet. And as part of the national conversation, Craig, a great indicator is baseball cards. And right now, there's a conversation in baseball cards amongst people who are long, investment-wise, whatever that means. Not a good idea to invest in baseball cards, guys. It's a great hobby, not a great investment. They're panicking because they're afraid that the player of 19 and 20, and then, a little injuries in 21, might not be coming back because we have the bigger sample size of Padres Juan Soto. And we've seen enough flashes of him being on to know that player's there. That heat map that you talk about, Craig, with the low fastballs is pretty darn depressing. There is one splash of red, and there is a whole lot of blue. And he knows it. So if he's going to be number 2, when he's going to be number 2, that's not changing. They're not going to all of a sudden drop Soto to 7 to reflect his stats. He's gonna have to start hitting the ball hard, which he's kind of done. I don't have his expected stats in front of me, but I'd guess that they're a few points higher than what we're seeing reflected.
Raphie?
Yeah, big time. He's currently hitting 198. His expected batting average is 251. He's currently slugging 383, and his expected slug is 508. So I mean, like these are numbers where, again, I just want to use this as perspective, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. Xander Bogaerts is outperforming his expected statistics. He should not be doing this well, according to his quality of contact, as he's doing, but we're all lifting him up and saying what a treat and joy it is, because it's true, because baseball is entertainment, and there's entertainment value in seeing Xander Bogaerts as the results have been, happening now. And so Juan Soto is on the other side of that, and we're all getting down. And I mean, I'm not saying, I'm using the royal we in terms of Padres fandom, are getting down on him when actually he's doing a lot of things right. And I bet you the things that he is doing wrong, he knows he's doing them wrong because he's Juan Soto, okay? Like, he's going to figure it out. Like, I am trying to hang in there with you guys and the folks on our Discord and the people who are paying attention, who see the talent that this guy is, because there will be a day in the next 2 years plus potentially that Juan Soto's on the Padres where we will point to him and be like, see, this is the guy. This is the guy we got. I am so confident in that. I would put so much on that because people like Juan Soto don't come around that often. The phrase generational talent is used for a reason. So we just got to hang in a little bit longer, guys. But we are Padres fans, and we've waited this long for this team. We can wait a little bit longer. I promise it will be okay.
And it's not like he's not doing anything. He's getting on base. That home run that Xander hit with him on immediately, 2-0. That's the formula for the Padres. Early leads with their big four. And it's not happening. It's just not happening quite as much as we want.
He hasn't been the impact player that you would trade your farm system to acquire. That's it. It's fair enough to say that so far. We all believe that it will be coming. I, too, wait for that moment. I wonder how long we have to wait. I hope it's not very long. I think that time is coming. I think when it comes, Tatis will be clicking. Machado won't be hitting like Chris Gomez retirement age. And the team will be playing at a level that we've all been dreaming of. I think it's coming. I think it's slow progress to that. But let me just go right to there then as well. We don't have to take off these bullet points in order. Machado took a day off, was given a day off, needed a day off. It's another week in the books, and Manny Machado is like a negative 0.6 WAR player so far for the Padres. He's been at best average with the glove, although he made a couple of really nice plays in Arizona this week, and he has been, honestly, a total cipher at the plate, where it's been weak ground balls. He's tied for the major league lead in double play grounders. Yeah. He is hitting for absolutely no power. He's got one homer. I think he's got a couple of doubles. He's really been a pretty much zero at the plate so far, or even a below zero for San Diego. So I'm happy we're where we are at 500 with Machado playing kind of the worst baseball of his entire career.
Yeah, dude, every time he has a runner on first now, you're starting to get a little jumpy. You're kind of like, come on, Bob, send the runner. We don't want any more double plays, because that's where the ball's going. It's going not hit hard. It's going on the ground. It's going to the shortstop. It's not like he hasn't been contributing, but he hits at a place in the order where we need him to produce. And he has expectations that are through the roof, and they're not going to go down anytime in the next 10 years. So it'd be nice for him to get his season started. He's another guy that did fine in the WBC and then put on the Padres uniform to start the year and kind of disappeared.
And seeing as we've been talking about the offense and the struggles of some of our stars at top, before we get to the pitching, let's talk a little bit about something really good that's happening, which is Matt Carpenter is putting it together and came out of a 1-for-19 hit for power. He's taking walks. He's doing Matt Carpenter things. The mustache is outstanding, but it's so well timed, Raphie, because it turns up Carpenter's bat just at the time that the rest of the league realized that Nelson Cruz, no matter what they did for his eye surgery, it didn't fix his ability to see spin. He cannot hit anything with spin right now. If it's not a fastball or a changeup, he's completely dead to the universe. So the Padres need Matt Carpenter to be that dude in the 6th spot. And honestly, the idea of a Carpenter doing his kind of classic like 350-ish on base percentage with doubles and home runs, setting up the new 7-9 of Kim Grisham and the death spot that is our catcher right now. Like, that's really exciting.
You're teeing me up for a lot of things right here, because there's so much there I want to touch on. First of all, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I love that they're putting Matt Carpenter in a position to succeed and not asking him to do anything else. When I was at the game on Saturday, he had 2 plate appearances. They brought in a lefty, they took him out, and they put in Nelson Cruz. Now, Nelson Cruz promptly struck out and looked terrible, but the reason that Matt Carpenter has a 377 on base percentage and a 548 slugging and a 151 WRC plus is because they're only putting him in against righties, and they're putting him in a position to succeed. The thing that kicks ass about Matt Carpenter, and John Procoda pointed this out on one of our shows, is that his pitches per plate appearances is insane. He makes Jurickson Profar look like a rookie in that standpoint, where he sees almost 5 pitches per plate appearances average over his career, which is just absolutely bonkers numbers. And the thing about Nelly is that I think we're gonna have a month or 2 months where we're gonna be feeling this out of him playing DH against lefties. And there might be a point where we recognize, hey, this is not working. He's a great presence. He'll be on the team the rest of the year, no doubt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would love if the Padres use those days where there's a lefty on the mound and they need a righty to DH to put Luis Campusano there if you're going to have Austin Nola catch. Because, and this is something that we talked about on our Pods Above Replacement that just came out this week about the catching position, Nola versus Campusano. Campy needs at-bats. The thing about offensive-minded catchers is that they take longer to develop because they're only playing 60 to 70% of the games if they're the primary catcher, which Campusano isn't. So, I mean, obviously the kid's hurt right now, so that's going to preclude him from getting any playing time. But I want to see those at-bats be used in a productive manner, and I think Campy is very deserving of that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, get well soon, Campy, because right now, I think what we're seeing, and remember, Bob Melvin, as you guys have talked about many times, the career backup catcher, the guy who knows what it means to fill that role, he has a trust level with his starters, and he trusts Nola. He had a hard time trusting Campusano. It seems like he's now finding his way into the trust tree, but Campy's got a bad thumb, so now Luigi is up from AAA, and if pitchers were uncomfortable throwing to Campusano, how do they feel throwing to Luigi? Obviously, they want to throw to Nola. So Nola now is getting driven into the ground, being thrown out there day game after a night game at the same time that he's hitting below 130. and you guys, I was watching, I actually had that earlier, but who cares? We do bullets where we do bullets. I was watching the Pods Above Replacement video you guys did on Catcher, and the thing that you guys brought up that I was really impressed by was taking the lie to Austin Nola's exit velocity, that he hits the ball hard. He hits the ball hard when he hits it on the ground to an infielder or hits it through the infield for a single. When he hits it in the air, he's one of the softest hitting players in all of Major League Baseball. So it's like, oh, he hits it hard and he's got a good launch angle. Problem is, the launch angle is separate from the hit hard. It's hit hard soft, or it's hit softly up, or it's hit hard low. So Nola's a complete mess, and they literally can't not start him right now, because otherwise, hey, it's me, Luigi, up with AAA. And the
Craig, do you want us to do the Padres lineup as Nintendo characters or what? Is that what you're getting at with this? We had in the Discord, somebody brought up Nola could be Dry Bones. I like it. That's fine. Is that where we're going?
Nelly Cruz is Bowser.
What?
He's going to be big, right? Bowser's got to be big.
Yeah, but
who's Bowser?
Bowser has got to be. I feel like Tatis would be Bowser.
Wow.
Yeah. He's a legendary, just chaotic entity who the game wouldn't exist without.
I would
need
say
more preparation
Mr.
to do this.
You think Mr. Tapia should be Bowser?
Domingo Tapia. He's big. B,
he is big.
He throws fireballs
right
all
he
over the place, wreaking havoc and destruction. So
he does.
That's my vote.
Okay, this is something we need to actually do work on.
Coming soon to the Padres Hot Tub Instagram.
Yeah, or to PadresHotTub.com. This could be a think piece. We could do some comparisons. We could do a think piece. Austin Nola, bad. Luigi, also bad. A problem. Pitching wise, Joe Musgrove returned. Pedestrian outing. Good to see no walks over 5 innings. Gave up 3 runs, 7 hits, did strike out 6. Pretty good. However, there's a knock-on effect to this, right? Joe Musgrove's back. This is great. He'll get stronger. He'll get better. Tremendous. Probably won't be that 9-0 with a sub-2 ERA dude, in late June, like he was last year when it was pay the man and everything that was happening going toward the All-Star game. Nonetheless, he's back. And again, we talk about ripple effects. With the combination of Joe Musgrove returning and off days returning to the Padres schedule after being missing for 3 weeks, 2 moves were made this week, Chris. Ryan Weathers going to the bullpen. That's something we talked about even last week and on the postgame show. But the other one that we did talk about, Nick Martinez. Coming off of 7 shutout innings, Nick Martinez is the first down to the bullpen. Was this surprising to you?
Surprising in that I thought it was the logical move and that it happened. I kind of thought they'd do other things, like the Weathers move first, for instance. But no, Nick he performed so wonderfully out of the bullpen last year, and the team has been struggling in this stretch where they seemingly played an entire game every day of April. It wore them down. And Nick gives you such versatility out of the bullpen. He can give you 2 innings. He can be your 8th inning guy. He can get you saves. He's proved himself to do it all. And he did have a solid 7 inning, effort in his last start. But before that, he had kind of been on the grind. They were not coming very easy for him. So it's a role he could do. It's a role we've seen him thrive in. I've seen put Waka in the bullpen, and that's not how it works. You don't just put your guy who's, getting hit the most in the bullpen. Right. You want to put somebody there who's going to succeed. And Nick's got the medal for it. He put some quotes in the press about how, he's gotten paid, he's gotten his financial security. So anything to win championships is his priority now. And I think ultimately, if he's starting, good. If he's starting here and there, but I think he's a fantastic piece in the bullpen, and incredibly valuable at a time when we need people there.
Well, there's another layer to this, right? And Kevin Acee had it in his morning column a couple of days ago, which is that the Padres recognize that in addition to Nick Martinez, you've got Seth Lugo, who's in the rotation as a semi-career reliever, stepping up into a starter's role where there will be down the road, kind of like when we were dealing with Chris Paddock a couple years ago, right? And we were always worrying about like the innings pitch clock running out. There's going to be an innings pitched limit restriction at some point on Seth Lugo. The reporting from Kevin Acee is that the Padres intend to kind of ride the dragon in this way where Martinez is currently in the bullpen, but then Lugo's innings get a little high, and now it's Lugo's turn to go to the bullpen, and then Nick goes back to the rotation, and then it's Nick's turn in the rotation, and then flip-flop again maybe a month down the road, and have a situation where from maybe May till the end of the year, one of Lugo or Martinez is in the bullpen, never both of them, probably in the playoffs, both of them are in the bullpen for the San Diego Padres. I guess I like it in principle, Raphie. My question is as to whether Bob Melvin is going to be able to. I mean, this is the tightrope walking on a straight razor for Bob Melvin, because as soon as Nick Martinez loses his innings pitched load, right? If you can't always bring him in for 60 pitch efforts out of the bullpen, then he's not going to be able to jump back into the starting rotation and give you the 6-7 innings that he's giving you right now.
Well, and I think that's where we suffer as an organization from pitching depth in AAA. It's like normally you wouldn't be having to build guys up if you bring them to the bullpen because you'd just be bringing up a starter from AAA who's already built up. And so instead, we're relying on Nick Martinez to kind of balloon up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's listen, I'm not terribly worried about that because I think that he proved himself to be more than capable in both roles. I think he's personally much better as a reliever than he is as a starter. And that's how I'd prefer to see him used in an ideal situation. But ultimately, as someone who remembers when Jake Arrieta and Vince Velasquez were pitching on this team not too long ago, when it comes time in July and August and September where there is a dearth of innings that need to be covered and not enough arms to cover them, I would rather them go to a Nick Martinez who maybe needs to be built back up a little bit than some random kid in AAA who, we're going to give, your Reese Kinnear, even your Jay Groom, who I love, because at least Nick is proven and we, I think, can cover the rest because we have this 6, sometimes 7-man rotation. We have guys at the major league level who have experience starting and covering multiple innings in games. So my worry level about this is like a 1.5 out of 10 right now. I think the team will figure it out, and I think Bob has shown that he can manage a bullpen in a meaningful way. So I think we can take a breath about this.
Hopefully true. And definitely Nick Martinez adds a lot to the bullpen because, Chris, right now, the Padres bullpen is basically 4 dudes. Steven Wilson needs to come in to throw the sweeper pretty much every single day and almost every pitch. He's kind of like Austin Adams, but control.
But a little bit better.
Brent Honeywell needs to come in and toss his fastball and screwball around. Tim Hill needs to pitch. As long as the sun rises in the morning, Tim Hill needs to pitch at that night. He's basically throwing every single day for the San Diego Padres. And Josh Hader's got 8 saves already. We're 24 games into the season, so what? He's tracking for a 50 to 60 save season right now for the San Diego Padres. He's tracking for like Bobby Thigpen numbers.
Sure,
massive save numbers.
He's the best closer in baseball right now, pitching for, one of the better teams. So he has a chance to put some crazy numbers up in his free agent year. I got to say, Craig, we've seen a lot of amazing closers in San Diego. It is really hard to remember a more dominant stretch from back in the start of the playoffs with Josh Hader till now. Like, the dude has been making major league hitters look bad night in, night out. When the Padres have a lead and it's the 9th inning, I've never felt better about the team winning than I do right now.
Never? Trevor?
Never, dude. No.
Never? Trevor?
No.
Never? Trevor?
That's the thing. I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but Hader's stuff is so dominant. He makes hitters look so bad. They're swinging at pitches that aren't close. Trevor always relied on the deception of his changeup and his control with his fastball. And Hader doesn't seem to be relying on that. He just seems to be overpowering. He just seems to be like, you're not going to hit me. So he'll walk a leadoff batter or a second batter, and it just doesn't matter. Whereas once Trevor started putting guys on the bases, you did start to worry a little bit, I feel like. And I'm sure he had stretches in his 50s plus save seasons that were incredible and untouchable. And,
really good ones. That's why he went to the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
That's why he's one of the only closers in the Hall of Fame. He had whole seasons that were stretches like this, where every time he came in, it was an automatic save, automatic win.
Sure, but I don't think he made hitters look
Trevor
quite
slander
as bad.
will not stand. We're a pro labor and a pro Trevor podcast.
Listen, I want to compliment as many fantastic Brewer alums as possible on this show, but Josh Hader's one of them.
Okay, and I want to continue on this, but when we talk about great Padres closers, let's just never forget the greatest Padres closer of all time, the only Padres closer with 20-plus saves and a 100% save percentage, the immortal Rod Beck. Okay? Pour
That's
one
the
out.
thing. It's such a storied
Rod Beck.
history. You got Goose Gossage. You got Rod Beck. You got our guy from Kauai, Kirby Yates, Heath Bell.
Yep.
All these amazing
Mark
guys.
Davis.
Josh Hader to Mark Davis. Josh Hader is as dominating or more dominating than all of them. He has been a privilege to watch. I hope we don't see the guy that popped up a little bit last year ever again, because that really shits on my narrative, frankly. But 0.9 ERA, I think he's averaging more than 2 strikeouts an inning. I may just be making that up, but that's what it feels like. And I don't think Trevor Hoffman ever did that.
Well, Raphie, Trevor Hoffman did everything, and he did it while surfing, and he was amazing. So stop it. Just stop it. Raphie, though, the thing is, the Padres kind of had this subtle, it's not our plan, but it's our plan, which was that Josh Hader could do what he did this year, and then Robert Suarez is just waiting in the wings, our closer in waiting, our dominant eighth inning guy that can just step up into the ninth, and it's no big deal. Robert Suarez is not pitching. Robert Suarez right now looks like a complete and absolute bust. And we hope that that's not the case. And we hope that he's Kawhi load management and he's going to show up and be great at the second half of the season. But I say this as a preamble to the question I will ask you, which is, does this need to be the next extension? And does this need to be an extension that happens like not too far down the road to get Josh Hader locked up for 3 or 4 years?
I mean, again, it's always that question of, sure, I'll sign Josh Hader to an extension. What's he willing to sign for? Edwin Diaz got an insane, way overpriced contract from the New York Mets. I think it was like 6 years and $120 million, like something like that.
Or 500, but yeah, it's
500. Yeah, 500. Thank you. Okay, 500,
Yeah.
but still $20 million a year for a reliever, in which case he needs to throw like peak Edwin Diaz every single year for it to pay off, so you're going to be paying that premium no matter what. And I have to imagine that Josh Hader is going to have that be his benchmark going into negotiations. Whether or not, that contract should have been signed in the first place and it was just Steve Cohen swinging his money around, then that's it. It doesn't matter. For Hader, he's going to be going to the open market, and he's going to be a qualifying offer candidate for the Padres. So that's a consideration as well. I don't think it's personally worth it to sign him to an Edwin Diaz level contract just because he has to be peak Josh Hader for the next 5 to 6 years or whatever for it to be worth it. If he's willing to sign for a little bit less, then of course, absolutely. If as long as the spigot is going to keep running for Peter Seidler, then sure, But I think we just have to see what the numbers are.
Interesting to
note
that.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
It's just interesting to note that Edwin Diaz and Robert Suarez both got their, free agent quote unquote deals within days each other, and both of them aren't going to be pitching. Edwin Diaz at least for the vast majority of the year, and Robert Suarez for a minute.
Yeah, and nonetheless, Diaz got hurt with his knee jumping on the mound, celebrating a win for DR.
Yeah, for Puerto Rico.
What's better though, right? Or for Puerto Rico, pardon me, but what's better actually? Because the knee's really important, but Suarez is the arm. So
yeah,
are we even gonna see the kid? It's just so far he's a complete zero. Drew Pomeranz is in minor league rehab games. So potentially he's on the way soon. Maybe he's a couple 3 weeks away. They keep saying these funny things like, well, we just really have to, build him up, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but, thank goodness we have Josh Hader right now. It's just, there's always a future that you can't see right when you're in the middle of something, right? There's always, you can't ever imagine that there could be another world, just like, every girlfriend you didn't break up with that you should have. You just can't imagine a world without them, and then you do, and you're like, oh yeah, Oh yeah, there is another world, and it's completely fine. So I'm sure we can live without Josh Hader, but right now, thank God he's on the team. Looking at our menu, there's only one thing really left, and I'm going to combine these last two spots, which is two struggling starting spots. You know, we're talking about sending two starters to the bullpen, Ryan Weathers, Nick Martinez. Each of them are pitching distinctly better than two starters who remain in the Padres rotation. And I guess I'll couch it like this to each of you. Who are you more concerned about right now? Blake Snell with a whip over 1.8. For 1.8. Blake Snell's whip right now. He's walked 13 guys. He's just snelling all over the place, start after start. Or Michael Wacha, the new doubles Pez dispenser. He's just out there, lift up the head, and an extra base hit pops out. I believe he's allowed 21 hits in his last two starts, and 17 of them for extra bases, doubles, triples, and home runs. 7.08 ERA for Michael Wacha. Who are we more concerned about right now, Snell or Wacha?
Well, I think it would be Snell, because as you just kind of referenced, come playoff time, Nick Martinez and Seth Lugo don't factor to be in the rotation. And the reason why they don't factor to be in the rotation is because Blake Snell's your 3. You want Blake Snell pitching that game 3, that deciding one. You want the guy who took the Dodgers, by the balls and dragged them all over the World Series, only to be taken out too early. That's who we want to see in those playoff games. The reassuring thing, I'd say, is that we know Blake Snell sucks in the first half, and we're in the firstest of the halves. It's super early on. So that's the guy who I think has to get going eventually, and it may not be till July till we know if he's gonna, which is kind of dumb, and probably plays upon where he's going to be playing baseball next year.
How much money is he costing himself right now, Raphie?
Well, I mean, if he plays like this the rest of the year, a lot of money. I think we've seen guys like Robbie Ray who have been historically high walk, high strikeout guys, then put together a great season, in their contract year and go and get paid. And, I don't think that that's out of the question for Blake Snell. In going back to your original question, I thought I'd provide just a little bit of hope about Michael Wacha. I think he's a victim of someone who's been really unlucky so far in his limited sample size. His FIP, fielding independent pitching, is a 4.36, which is not good, but it's not terrible. And just to kind of like go to some other guys, for instance, Blake Snell's FIP is over 6. Which is terrible, which is dreadful. He's below replacement level so far, and he's walking a ton of guys. So if you're asking, whereas by the way, Michael Wacha is only walking 6.5% of batters, so he's exactly the guy who we thought he was. He's just on the kind of bad end of that luck. Hitters have a 394 BABIP against him, and that is not going to hold for the rest of the year. I can guarantee you that. So
okay, yes, I agree, but let me just push back on this. Part of the reason he's got a 394 BABIP is because his four-seam fastball is getting trucked. Like, it's not a matter of like, oh, well, a lot of things are just dropping in over the second baseman's head, and that's why, and it's been unlucky, or he's had bloop singles fall in between the outfielders. He's getting smashed on his fastball right now. And if you're getting smashed on your fastball, then yeah, you're going to give up a super high batting average, BABIP, everything is going to be high. The other thing is his changeup doesn't have a great shape to it right now. It's a drifting pitch. It doesn't have the bite that I've seen in a lot of Michael Wacha highlight reels, including when you guys broke him down on PAR. The bite isn't there. It's a drifting pitch. It looks like a college changeup right now, and it looks like a college fastball right now. And he was a great ace at Texas A&M, but that's not going to play, a dozen years later or 10 years later in the major leagues. Waka's got to turn it around. The only reason I'm concerned about Michael Waka more than Snell, and I feel like it's kind of a low threes on each, and it's probably a decimal point apart, is that, like you said, Chris, like, this is Blake Snell. Like, it's obnoxious. It's honestly, it's a tough watch. That's why I said a week ago, I'm so cool with him not being on the team next year and letting some other franchise kind of dig through this week by week. Their fan base going, well, we're just waiting for that 7-inning, 15 strikeout performance that we know is coming in August. As we sit there watching him walk the bases loaded in May. Like, Snell is Snell. The stuff is the stuff. The 10-cent head is the 10-cent head. The work ethic is the work ethic. He's never going to change. He's never going to lock himself in to be the best version of himself. That's who Blake Snell is. Michael Waka, like, he's been bad in Major League Baseball before, and he's been low threes and pretty good in baseball before. And if he's going to be like a crappy Mike Clevenger that just goes out there and kind of gets honked, as Raphie put earlier, like, Lugo goes to the pen, Martinez goes to the pen. You do need that fourth starter. The NLCS turned on a game when the Padres were up 4-0, and Minaya and Clevenger couldn't get them a freaking out before the game was tied. Like, that's where the series turned. You need a fourth starter. And we talked about that. And right now, to be honest, I'd rather see Ryan Weathers throw the ball than Michael Waka. He's been pretty bad. Not to say that they should do that, and they won't.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, you're just saying right now, Weathers, it seems like, is a harder for a batter to face. Well, I mean, it looked like batters in the last couple outings were eagerly looking forward to their appearances with Michael Waka. The thing that's reassuring is his record is that he'll eat innings, and it's impossible for him to eat innings when he's giving up 10+ hits, no doubt. But the fact that he does do that makes me worry a little less. Whereas Blake Snell, he could eat up a bullpen over the series of 2 consecutive starts that are off, that he gives you 3 innings with 6 walks in each of them.
Honestly, guys, like, I couldn't disagree more. I think Ryan Weathers has been getting really lucky in his appearances. I think he's still walking a lot of guys. I think that he's giving up a lot of contact, and I think that, like, he's just on the other end of the BABIP spectrum of Michael Waka. And I mean, Craig, I do want to agree with you on one thing. His changeup hasn't been good this year. His changeup isn't dropping as much as it did in 2022 when he was playing for the Red Sox. He had this magical year, and the changeup is going to be what plays on his fastball. You were talking about his fastball shape being poor. And you're right. Like, people are hitting the shit out of his fastball right now. Hitters are hitting 364 against his fastball. It's not good. But last year, let me put it this way. Hitters right now are slugging 545 against his fastball. Also not good. Last year, hitters slugged 538 against his fastball. It's basically the same pitch from that perspective. It's just that his changeup was better last year. Right. So he was able to throw off of that more. So if he improves his changeup shape, which I think he will, because I think he's a very storied pitcher, or a very studied pitcher, that he will improve. I think that Michael Waka has been Michael Waka. I think he's been the guy that he's always been. He's just gotten a little unlucky so far. And I also think Ryan Weathers has been Ryan Weathers. And I think he's still the same. I think he's still the same pitcher. And I think if you let these guys both throw a full season, that Waka will be on the better side of it. I just think we're dealing with April right now. So that if we're going to compare those two guys, I would kindly disagree.
Well, I think I don't think we're saying that Waka should go to the bullpen or Snell should go to the bullpen. That's not it. It's just that Weathers, he's pitching at a higher percentile for Ryan Weathers right now than either of the other guys. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And it was about Fields. Yeah, I literally said, like, they shouldn't do this. Right now, if I see Weathers on the mound or I see Waka on the mound, I'm like, my feeling is a little bit better. But it's really, Raphie, what you bring up is the most astute reminder of all. Baseball is stupid,
So stupid.
No one should watch, so don't watch Weathers or Waka or any of these assholes. Just listen to the Padres Hot Tub. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.